Hey everyone, it's Allie and welcome to my channel, and today I'm super excited to talk to you about all the books I read in September. Alright, so I did end up reading 7 books in September. This September was kind of a weird one for me. I was definitely starting to get into the fall vibes. I was enjoying taking it a little bit slower than I had over the summer. And even though I had a lot of very highly anticipated books picked out for September, I felt like I kind of fell into a reading rut. I do end up reading a lot of times, as most of us do, I think, in the evening hours for maybe an hour or so. And in September, I feel like my husband and I had a lot of plans with friends, which was really nice, honestly. And as I'm getting more and more settled in South Carolina after moving from Ohio earlier this year, I'm starting to fall into more routines and I just more regularly have things on the calendar. So yeah, all that to say, I did end up reading 7 books last month, which I'm really happy with, and I did for the most part enjoy everything. But before we get into everything that I did read, I'll quickly address the books that I didn't get to or I DNF'd. First off, not dramatic at all, I had picked out The Vanishing Half to read during September, and this is like the first time I'm picking it up. I just ran out of time to read this in September. With that being said, if you watched my October TBR, you know that I did not pick this out for October. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and put this on hold until like January. Pretty much same goes for A Little Life. This is a honking book, and I did start reading it actually, I think about halfway through the month. I didn't get super far, I got to page 45, and I just realized that this is a book that I'm gonna want to spend a good bit of time with. It's definitely an emotional read. I feel like it is a bit of a dense read in the sense that you do need to pay attention to what's going on. There's a lot of different characters, and I don't want to get mixed up about who's who and what's going on with each character. So like The Vanishing Half, I think I am just gonna go ahead and put this aside until January, and I might even just start from the beginning at that point. And then shockingly to me, I did DNF, at least for now, Kate Atkinson's Emotionally Weird. And if you've been following my channel for a while, you know that Kate Atkinson is one of my favorite authors. Like, I would say maybe even top 5, definitely top 10. And I know she has a pretty atypical writing style that I personally do really like. And she is the kind of author who definitely just writes what she wants to. Some of her books are very different from the others. I would say like the most mainstream novels that she's put out are the ones that are in the Jackson Brodie detective series. I think they're very well written. I'm enjoying this series so far. And there's nothing like super out of the ordinary for those books. They're just very much like detective novels. Some of her other books are a little bit more artistic, which I have liked so far, but this one was just not for me, I don't think. I was looking at other reviews and they said if you're really into like literary criticism, you will probably really like this one, but honestly, even though I am an English person, I would say I'm much more of a creative writing type of English person. I think I got about 30 to 40 pages into this one, and I just felt like there was a lot of stuff that was going over my head that I just wasn't picking up on. So I'm not going to get rid of this book right now. I would like to try again in the future, but at least for this fall season, I'm not going to be picking it up again. But alright, now let's get into the 7 books that I did read, and not surprisingly, I did read the next book in the Cormoran Strike series. This is the 4th book, and it's called Lethal White, and beginning in July, I've just been reading one of these books every month, and I've actually gotten into the habit of starting each month with a Cormoran Strike book. I really love the writing style, I love the characters. If you're not familiar, it does follow like a upper 30s grumpy detective guy, Cormoran Strike, and his assistant Robin, and they're just really nice foils to each other. And so the stories are kind of like half following them and their personal lives, and of course in each book they are investigating a different case. So I've really enjoyed the character development, I've enjoyed seeing the characters grow in relationship to each other, but this one I think was actually my least favorite crime. So for me, the character development was what really made this book strong, but I have a feeling when I finish the whole series, this will probably end up being my least favorite or one of my least favorite books. But with all that being said, this is still a 4.5 for me, and I think the series overall is going to be 5 stars. Next up, I did read Lisa Jewell's The Night She Disappeared. I'm sad because I'm running out of Lisa Jewell books that I personally own. I still have a lot to get to from her backlist. While I had picked up ones from her from like library sales and Book Outlet, and I was trying to pace myself with the books because I really like Lisa Jewell and her writing style, and I didn't want to read through all my books and have nothing to look forward to. But sadly, this is the last one I own, so I need to be on the lookout for more. So this is a thriller. Lisa Jewell is primarily a thriller author. together. And this story jumps between two timelines. So the one timeline follows young Tallulah and her boyfriend Zach, and they have had an infant son. They finally go out for the first time since they've had their son, and they end up disappearing. And then 1 year after the case goes cold, Tallulah's mom, Kim, she ends up looking into the case. So the story's going back and forth between what happened leading up to Tallulah and her boyfriend's disappearance, and then her mom investigating the case. So I would not say this is my new favorite book from Lisa Joel, but still 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. And even though, of course, I have my favorites and least favorites, I really have not been disappointed by any of Lisa Joel's books. And then I did just go ahead and finish the Natural series. I did read the first 2 in August, and I actually didn't even realize it, but this is the 3rd book, and then this is the 4th book, but I didn't realize that there is actually a novella. I just thought this was a thick book. And if you've never heard of this series before, one I would definitely recommend. These are by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, who did write the Inheritance Games series. I only read the first book in the Inheritance Games, and I am definitely going to finish it, but overall I think I do like these books better than that first one at least. So if you're not familiar with this series, the main character Cassie has this ability to really see through people. Like, she can observe someone and just kind of figure out a lot of things about them. And so the FBI actually seeks her out to become part of this program where they have a few other kids who have their own special abilities. So I like this book because it's very psychological. Like, it's almost superhero vibes, but much more grounded in reality. Like, each of the kids kind of has a bit of a sixth sense. One of them can read emotions on people really well. Another one can tell pretty much 100% accurately if someone is lying, and she can lie herself very well. And in each book, they are investigating a case. So it's a little bit crime, a little bit thriller, and they are YA, so they are written in that typical YA style. For some reason, I didn't like these last few books as well as the first 2. I think I gave all 3 of these 4 stars. But with that being said, I would definitely still give the series overall about 4.5 stars. So yeah, if you like YA thrillers, if you like true crime, if you like psychology, I would absolutely recommend checking out this series. Then I did read a historical fiction book, and that is The Crimson Thread by Kate Forsyth. Kate Forsyth is 100% one of my favorite authors. I had only read, I think, 2 books from her before this book, but I absolutely love both of those. Kate Forsyth actually has a PhD in fairy tales, which I think is super awesome. So the other 2 books that I had read, they were kind of like historical fiction versions of fairy tales. Like, they were telling the actual origin stories of the fairy tales. So I love that. I love any kind of fairy tale retelling, and the fact that that was mixed with historical fiction. The couple books that I read from her before I thought were pretty much perfect. My favorite one from her, if you're curious, is called The Wild Girl, and then I also really loved Bitter Greens. This one was not as rooted in fairy tales. It did have some of the Minotaur myth weaved through it, but it was more just like talking about it. But this is a historical fiction novel that is set during World War II, kind of just like the main chunk of World War II. But the cool thing about this is that it was set on the island of Crete, and there were also Australian soldiers. So even though this is kind of just another World War II novel, I feel like the setting and the characters definitely made this stand apart from a lot of other ones that I've read. I did give this one 4 stars. Like I said, I like the setting, but I feel like some of the villains in the story, the antagonists, Kate Forsyth did not really give them many redeeming qualities, so you kind of just end up hating them, I feel like. But I did like the story overall, and if you do like World War II novels, I would highly recommend checking this out. And then lastly was absolutely my favorite book of the month, and that was Hamnet. This is a book that I've been wanting to read for a really long time, and I was just on the lookout for it at different library sales and thrift stores, and I finally found it just a couple months ago. And I just really loved everything about this book, including the cover. Love that. It's definitely a loose historical fiction story. It is based on the family of William Shakespeare, but there's not actually a lot known about his family, so the author, of course, had to make a lot of stuff up. But what is known is that one of his sons, Hamnet, actually died when he was 11 years old. So that's kind of the root of this story. And the book follows the events that lead up to his death, as well as how the family kind of handles their grief. And I just absolutely loved the writing style in this book. I feel like it was so well written, and that is my personal opinion. I did read some reviews where people thought the writing was like pretentious or too much or whatever. I disagree with that. I think it was written perfectly, and I think the writing style really makes sense with the book. And also, even though it's very obvious and clear, and I don't think the author's trying to hide it in any way, that William Shakespeare is the father, she never actually names him. She just always says like the father or he, and that rubbed some people the wrong way, but I actually think it really made sense for this book because the focus is not really supposed to be on Shakespeare. It's supposed to be much more on the family overall. So yeah, just really loved everything about this. This is absolutely going to be one of my favorite books of the year, and I'm so excited to look into more that Maggie O'Farrell has written. And I was reading some of the blurbs about some of her other books, and I feel like everything just sounds super interesting to me. So hopefully I'll have found a new favorite author, but if you're looking for something for the fall season, for November, Dark Academia month, I would highly recommend checking out Hamnet. But alright everybody, that was everything that I read during the month of September, and if you haven't seen my October TBR video yet, I will go ahead and link it up above. Fall, I think, is just the absolute best time for reading, especially the kind of books that I like. So I'm definitely excited to just kind of cozy up this month of October and read a lot. But do let me know if you've read any of the books I talked about, and let me know what was your favorite book of September. But if you like this video, please make sure to give me a big thumbs up and subscribe. It really does help my channel out a lot. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!